I need to highlight that because it's rare for anybody to have the honor to basically just share ideas and views. And I do believe that the Indonesia Economic Forum is one of the few fora in Indonesia that would allow people to share opinions that actually matter for not only the present but for the future. Then only 600 million years ago, complex life form came about. And the oscillation of temperatures was so big that humanity was not able to thrive in a good way. Only about 11,500 years ago that the oscillation of temperature stabilized, that we were able to survive in a moderately good way, re-attain centrality, which unfortunately in the last few years has kind of like disappeared. People are either on the right side of the game or on the left side of the game. And that distorts the ability with which people can attain capital, like it or not. You either want to go with socialism with Chinese characteristics, or you want to go with liberal democracy. But if you're in the middle, your ability to attain capital is somewhat distorted. That's a fact for many entrepreneurial individuals, groups in the world. And at the same time, the planet is getting warmer. Ever since the first industrial revolution, for 150 years, between the year 1850 and the year 2000, humanity burned 350 gigatons of carbon. Demographically, the planet is getting older, faster than ever. Except for India and Indonesia. For the obvious reasons, which are largely reproductive in nature. But net, people are getting older, savings are piling up. But what's happening at the same time is that the number of asset classes remains finite. With whatever money you got, you can only buy that bottle of wine, you can buy paintings, you can buy stocks and bonds and real estate. That's it. The number of asset classes does not increase. So as a result of the constant nature or the finite nature of asset classes and money going up, the price of money in the next 20, 30 years is only going to come down. We're part of the tropics. By 2050, 5 years after the title of this forum, which is 2045, 2/3 of the world's children are going to be in the tropics. And Indonesia represents a big chunk of that. 1/2 of the world population are going to be in the tropics. New economic powerhouses are emerging. You go by the Price Waterhouse report, you're going to be playing golf until you're 500 years. You're going to be playing bridge until you're 500 years. That's the kind of conversation. If you take a look at Silicon Valley, compare that with China, China is an amazing place. I was there until a few days ago. The kind of intellectual property that exists there is probably not like the kind that you would see in Silicon Valley. But the application is massive, which is why if you talk to every Chinese in China, they argue that Alibaba is going to surpass Amazon. And their argument, which is cleverly articulated, is the user experience. This speaks of the diversity and the richness of the diversity of this nation of 250 million people. If we've had relative peace and stability for 2,000 years by way of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam, I deny and I defy anybody who thinks that Indonesia is likely to be shaken. Because the core of our soul is that of peace and stability and diversity. Which is why the thesis of Indonesia in the next 28 years until 2045 should be a pretty staggeringly interesting one. I highlighted this in the last year's presentation. The number has changed a bit. We're only spending $8 on R&D per person per year. Singapore is spending $1,600. So anybody that's spending $1,600 per person per year on research and development, I think ought to be moving faster than the other guy that's only spending $8 per year per person. We've taken a staggering number of people out of poverty. Go back to 1998, we had 130 million or more living with $2 a day or less. Can you imagine that? It was only 19 years ago that we had more than 130 million people living with $2 a day. Now, we only have 20 million. As of 2014, 21 million. But now we only have 20 million people living with $2 a day or less. You've taken 110 million people out of poverty. That's an amazing feat. It speaks of the momentum and the inertia that Indonesia is characterized with. We've got close to 500,000 kilometers of roads. Where do we want to be in 2045? But if we were to just spend 5% per year going forward until the year 2045, we're going to have $1.3 trillion to build the bridges, the roads, the power plant, the port capabilities, and the airport capabilities. You think we can't go from 50,000 megawatts existing today to 1 million megawatts? Mathematically, it is doable. The money's there. And imagine if we were to be able to sensitize the tax ratio to a greater percentage, we're only going to be able to spend more money.